everyone, welcome to the 22nd episode of Bloggers Alliance, Leaders and Influencers. Today we have Mr. Kapil Gupta with us. Kapil Gupta is a parallel entrepreneur who believes in providing true meaning to the various organizations he runs in and builds them in sync with one another. He's the founder and the CEO of SOLH Wellness, a mental wellness platform, and his current passion project. A mental wellness platform and his current passion project. OMLogic, one of India's leading digital marketing agencies, Pragati E and Frontlist. So we are very glad to have you here, Mr. Kapil, and a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Amandeep. It's a pleasure to be here.
So are you ready for the questions?
Absolutely.
Great. So, Mr. Gupta, your work often merges ancient wisdom with modern psychology. Could you share how this is reflected in your approach to mental health?
Sure. See, for me, ancient wisdom and modern philosophy are not necessarily devoid of each other. They have always been in sync. I very sincerely believe people have their own set of beliefs and they come at things from various different angles. Whatever belief you hold, whether that is more aligned towards modern philosophy, whether that is more aligned towards ancient wisdom, whether that is somewhere in the middle, whether that is aligned toward astrology or numerology or feng shui or any other spiritual, superstitious, whatever other realms, they are all your beliefs. The only thing that an individual needs to do is to have their set of beliefs and follow their set of beliefs for themselves. Where we get into a challenge at times is when people start imposing those beliefs upon others. For me, specifically in the work that I do around mental wellness, I always say mental wellness works in 8 billion different ways. And that is because the population of humans on this earth is 8 billion. And everybody has a very unique take on what works for them. And whatever works for them, more power to them in kind of working in that particular arena, working in that particular set of beliefs and get their wellness.
Great. So, I would like to tell our audiences that you are also the author of In My Head, the book. So, my next question is on that. So, in your latest book, In My Head, you explored themes surrounding mental health in day-to-day life. Tell us 3 mental health tips for a layperson.
So the first tip for me is very simple. Eat, keep yourself hydrated, which means drink enough water, breathe, exercise, and sleep properly. And I'm not saying this from a physical health perspective. I'm saying this purely from a mental health perspective, and I call it follow the basics. The second thing that people need to do is really participate and engage in things that stimulate them. Things that they are interested in, that becomes really therapeutic and interesting for them to kind of do. And the third is, which I have been propagating, in a huge way over the last some time, use some kind of a platform that gives you a holistic view on mental wellness. And that is where I started Soul Wellness a couple of years back. And I'm very glad that it has actually become, a space where people can come in and people can get all sorts of self-help tools. People can get all sorts of community support tools. People can get expert services and a whole range of courses, toolkits, support groups where they can talk to other people, where they can get help, all of this combined. So, this ability for people to get help or people to seek help is an extremely important portion on what they need to do. So follow the basics, which I said. Second, get help wherever you can, whatever you can. And number 3, participate in things that stimulate you. However absurd others may think, but whatever stimulates you is what gives you mental wellness, and you should do more of it.
Okay, things that stimulate a person. That's a very good take. So, could you discuss any specific techniques or theories from your new book that individuals can apply to manage stress and anxiety more effectively in their everyday lives?
Sure. So there is this concept, and I say there is this concept, like I don't know anything about it, but there is this concept that people have been talking about for a long time called mindfulness. Okay. For the life of me, mindfulness doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it doesn't. Uh,
Okay.
I came up with this concept, which is actually very well elaborated in the book, that I call as 16-hour theory.
Mm-hmm.
And how we look at the 16-hour theory is, our sincere belief is everybody, every day, more than 16 hours a day, in every action that they take and every decision that they make, what they are doing is really trying to optimize their mental health. So think about it. I mean, think about whatever you have done since morning. What did you choose to eat in the morning? What time did you choose to wake up? Who did you choose to call? Who did you choose to meet? When did you decide to rest? And everything else. More than 16 hours a day, every day. Whatever you are doing is really simply trying to optimize your mental health. For us, that's an extremely important approach to how people can start looking at mental wellness for them. And moment you get into that mode, moment you start looking at every small action that you take and every large action that you take from your mental wellness perspective, life starts to alter. When you start understanding and realizing how some of the actions that you think are, do I really need to do this? When you start going deeper into it and you start looking at how that was also something that you did to optimize your mental health, whether that is from a short-term perspective or a medium-term perspective or from a long-term perspective. I mean, you study keep your mental to get better mental wellness for yourself in the longer term, which means you will be able to earn, you won't have to stress, you won't have to kind of go through other challenges in life. You do what your mother asked you to do because you think your mother will get upset, which will actually give you more pain and agony and actually give you worse mental health. So you do whatever she asks you to do, even though you might hate that action. So in every small action, in every large action, in every decision, you are trying to simply optimize your mental health.
Okay. So, let's talk about Soul Wellness app. Turning to your new venture, this app, how does this platform extend your teachings and philosophy? What unique features does the app offer to its users seeking mental health support?
Sure. So let me answer this question from two perspectives. Let me first answer this question from a user perspective, and then I will also answer this question from a mental health startup perspective. So from a user perspective, I mean, I just talked about the 16-hour theory. Let me pick up from there. So the question is, so what I'm saying is, everybody, including you and me and all the audience, we work on our mental health 16 hours a day, but still we don't get help. Why? Still our mental health suffers. Still you have anxiety and depression and stress and all sorts of challenges. And when I started looking into the mental health arena, I said it is because people don't have the vocabulary, the tools, and a framework around mental health. Okay. Vocabulary is the language. For me, 16-hour theory is the starting point of that language of mental health. Then we talk about the 5 adjectives of mental health, where we say all that we are doing in life is trying to increase your happiness, trying to increase your peace of mind, and trying to decrease your sadness, your loneliness, and your stress. And we kind of take that forward and we say, so this is all of this combined becomes the vocabulary. The second part is people have the tools. We divide mental health tools in 3 parts. Number 1, self-help. So things that you can do by yourself or with the platform, in our case, because we are a platform. These could be things like self-assessment. These could be things like mood meter, mood analysis. These could be things like go for a run if you think running helps you, or basically what I said earlier, participate or do things that stimulates you. So self-help tools. Number 2, community support tools. So this is where journaling, support groups, social connectivity, being able to associate and being able to work with people that have
That's
either
really important. Yeah.
exactly. So I always say, that nagging aunt that used to, or that nagging neighbor that used to ask you, kahan ja rahe ho? Was a part of your support group, at least when I was growing up, even though we may not have liked her at all. Then the third part of mental health support is expert services. It could be clinical expert services, which means a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a counselor, or it could be non-clinical expert services, which can be as disparate as yoga, meditation, art, music, dance, or it could be numerology, astrology, spirituality, religious, and other things, or it could simply be Ayurveda and homeopathy and Unani and other modes of support. What we have tried to do as soul wellness is try to put them all together in what we call as a mental health ecosystem.
So
which means
is it like a holistic approach, like the overall?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what we are trying to do. Now, let me start the question from the other side that I said, from a mental health startup side, and it kind of ties everything together. See, most mental health startup like me, I will change the world around mental health. And then, after working in it a little bit, they go to the investor. And the investor says, this is all bullshit. Tell me very simply one thing that is sellable and that is scalable. Simple. One thing that is sellable and that is repeatedly scalable. And that one thing in mental health is simply the ability to sell more counselings and more therapies. That's where most mental health startups fail. And when we started off, we said we want to very holistically provide value to people. We do not, absolutely do not intend to attempt to increase more counselings or therapies. I mean, we do provide counselling and therapy services, but we don't intend to specifically work on increasing our business by providing more counseling or therapies. We want to create a platform that anybody, anytime, anywhere can use to get mental health support for themselves. For those of them, in cases where they think therapy or counseling is an answer for them, by all means, more power to them. They should take that particular support. And for everybody else, they should use the other tools and solutions. Also, what happens is counseling and therapy in mental health is I call it a 2% solution. And what I mean is only 2% people are really going to ever go for counseling or therapy. What about the other 90%? Mental health is not a disease or a sickness only. I mean, it's something that impacts each and every one of us, and each and every one of us should be able to get support in that.
So looking forward, what impact do you hope your book and the Soul Wellness app will have on the mental health landscape? Are there particular changes or advancements you aim to drive in the mental health community through your efforts?
Absolutely. I mean, the Soul platform is supposed to be a tech-driven, AI-enabled mental wellness platform. In a lot of ways, what we are trying to do in mental health has never been done in a holistic environment so far. Definitely not in the Indian environment. And from whatever I have seen, it has been attempted and some small steps have been taken, but nothing really concrete has been done even in the global environment. I mean, if you think about mental health, large mental health companies, what would you come up with? A Headspace or a Calm? They are both meditation apps, which for me is one of the 100 different things that works in mental health. What we are trying to do is to holistically handle and holistically provide a solution to everyone in a customized, personalized manner to which they can use the platform. That is also what we are attempting to do with the book. One very important aspect that you would find in the book, which I think a lot of users will find very interesting, is we talk about the integration of sustainable development goals and mental health. I mean, we did a detailed analysis around it that is actually included in the book. So UN SDGs, there are 17 SDGs as are defined by the UN. We think 8 out of those 17 SDGs will not be complete without a comprehensive mental wellness environment, without a comprehensive mental wellness solution. So whether you look at it from a from a SDG perspective, or whether you think about it purely from a healthcare perspective, mental health has a huge role to play, and that role is increasing by the day. Post-COVID, specifically post-COVID, people's ability to seek support has diminished significantly. The stresses and the challenges and everything have increased tremendously. And we in the book talk about what we call as the 4 C's of mental health. So we say mental health challenges have increased for everyone because of 4 C's. 4 C's meaning, number one, climate. So, climate change and uncertainty around climate. Number two, contagion. Contagion means viral infections, other kinds of diseases. So contagion. Number three, conflicts that happen all across the world. And sometimes those could even be conflicts that happen between individuals or an individual with themselves. And number four, conformity. So this inherent need to conform to people. This inherent need, specifically in a digitally active world, is actually, the most rural person in the most obscure part of India, in the most poor circumstances, it is looking at Insta Reels from the most affluent person in probably the most affluent part of the world, living in an extremely rich environment, and starts developing aspirational value. And that level of conformity just is, we don't live in a socially equitable world. And I mean, we are not even that we don't live in it, we are so far away from it, and it is probably not even too human to think about a socially equitable world across the globe. I mean, it's that would probably take the joy out of humanity in some ways. So these 4 C's are an extremely important part, and this is where we kind of look at both from a book perspective as well as from a soul wellness perspective. That is where we kind of look at the entire mental wellness arena.
So since you have brought sustainability into the picture in relation to mental health, so please shed more light on how the sustainability movement is related to better mental health.
Sure. So in sustainability, we talk about good employment. In sustainability, we talk about gender equality. In sustainability, we talk about social equity. In sustainability, we talk about removing hunger. In sustainability, we talk about climate change. All of this cannot be achieved without looking at a comprehensive mental health solution. I mean, climate change in itself, on one side, it's a driver of mental health issues. On the other side, the fear of climate change drives a lot of mental health issues. So one is your mental health that deteriorates because of bad air that you breathe. The second is your mental health deteriorating because of the fear of climate change causing, that 2-degree increase in temperature that will cause anarchy or cause the whole world to collapse.
And now it is said it's not, climate change anymore, it's climate crisis.
I have certain, certain notions about it or certain beliefs about it that would definitely require a totally different podcast. So let me not talk about them on this one. See, climate change is important. I mean, it is environment and sustainability is something that we all need to look at. But where are we really taking this? I mean, if you think about it, the amount of, and this is what people really miss out. I'm just giving you a tidbit of what that next podcast may look like. An analysis of what are we doing with electric cars, the amount of money, the amount of pollution, the amount of climate crisis that is caused by electric cars is far beyond the value of that electric car in terms of the fossil fuel that it saved. Far beyond. But in our mode to demonstrate that we are taking an action, we don't necessarily look at all of that in a concrete manner. And I think that's where we need to do a lot more. I mean, if you think about food crisis, for example, I mean, looking at the kind of advancements that have happened in technology, looking at the kind of advancements that have happened in agriculture, looking at how you are going into a vertical plantation, looking at how you are able to develop, home gardens and everything now, probably if you concretely look at this, there is no real food crisis to talk of. It's just we start looking at problems and solving them at the surface versus really diving down. And this dive down comes, but it usually comes 15, 20, 30 years after we have surpassed the time to have a resolution to the problem. But as I said, that's for a totally different podcast where we can talk about sustainability and what it really means to people.
Sure, sure. So those were quite interesting insights, and thank you so much for shedding light on mental health and bringing in the topic of sustainability as well. And mental health is something that everybody wants to you know wants to know more about it, and there is a curiosity and there is a need also to talk about it. There is an absolute dire need to create awareness. So thank you so much for putting that in your answers with us, and we are very happy to have you here. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. I think mental health is, by far the biggest pandemic that the world has ever seen. Far bigger than what COVID was, or far bigger than COVID could ever have been. And needs an urgent and immediate solution.
Definitely, definitely. So thank you so much, Mr. Kapil Gupta. And everyone, we'll be back with the next episodes with another topic and with lots of more information and insights. So stay tuned with Bloggers Alliance and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.